What is one piece of career advice you wish you were told when you started out?
Yeah, everyone has the thing, right? So when we think of it, something retrospectively, if we would have had it, it would have been great. When I started my career, right, as an engineer, then I aspired to move over to take the engineering leadership. I thought that it's a natural progression that I being working as an engineer, I could step into the leadership role. But the thing that I have to learn quite a lot is, yes, people do talk a lot about the soft skill and the people skills, right? But the big piece of advice that I haven't had is both these skills comes out of the experience, not by learning through it, right? We observe others, we try to think that we do have that stuff in our hand, but when you step into the role, there are quite a lot of spots where we are totally unaware of how to handle the issues, especially when it comes to people thing. And it is mostly sensitive stuff, right? So and we have to treat it with the utmost care. What I learned out of that is there is a grooming step that is always required when you step from there to here. The grooming step involves a person to act as a second IC, and then a shadowing process should also be required, like a pairing process. Where whenever we face any issues which we have never handled before, we should always have a buddy whom we could rely upon, whom we could bounce it and then get it back. The hierarchical boss structure doesn't work that well. When you face an issue, most probably most of the new people stepping into the role, they think that this is something that I should be handling it. And most of the scenarios, they shouldn't be doing that. They should be either bubbling it up or asking for help, right? So those sort of things would be easier if there is a buddying or padding structure that's been there. This is all mostly retrospective of how I faced the problems and I got to know and learned around it. This is what I wished I could have had, but it's mostly a bit rough patch when you learn it on your own with no one to support you around,
That's it. Such a great answer, Kumaresh. And you mentioned there, like having a buddy, whether that's or a mentor, even inside or outside the organization, someone be able to spar with, who sometimes is, out of the picture and can think of things, without bias is so needed, right? And creating that network.
Exactly. The mentor helps quite a lot, especially when you have a mentor who is already playing a senior role, right? So that helps quite a lot. It's not about just leading and having the people leadership issues there. It's all about even approaching the executive leadership too, right? So what do they expect? We would think in a different terms versus what their expectation is. So my experience, right? So while we go and interact with the executive leaderships, we should be aware of what their burning issues are, right? So if we talk about their burning issues, then their attention is more towards the thing and how we correlate and relate our problems that is contributing to their burning issues, because most of their burning issues are being contributory things, right? So all the smaller problems get chunked and contributed to a big major stuff. So those are the things that we need to relate it out. And all of these things, we will not be getting to know it at the very first shot. So when I went and first interacted over there, I would be just explaining about my problem, my perspective. But that's not the way that, if we put it, it's not that relatable to the others. So those are the things where mentorship helps quite a lot. And then there is the other thing, right? Sponsoring people too. So along with mentorship, you should also have a sponsor inside the organization. So basically, what you understand with the mentor, right? Practically me mentoring another person, it is easy for me to understand the strengths and the weakness of the person, right? Then naturally, I should act as a sponsor to knowing the person's strength, where the person could fit in pretty well. So that is also an activity that as a mentor should take ownership towards to it. So Yeah, these are all evolved based on the experience. And when we first step in, we have no clue about all of these. So we step in into the big land of things where there are quite a lot of minds. That's how we think. But it is more about sensible thinking and more about talking with people and learning out of experience. That's what it is about.
Hmm. What was a pivotal moment in your journey that had a significant impact?
Yeah. I would call the pivotal moment is earlier I was being acting in the capacity of an architect, right? So architect as such has couple of responsibilities. One is doing the design, doing the solution architecture over there, and the technical architecture there, and then the governance, how the things fit in. So part of the characteristics of an architect is to make sure that things don't deviate from what we have designed, right? And if it is deviating, then what's the exception? And is it really a valid exception? And then are we doing the right governance? So that's where the architecture is about. But when I stepped into leadership, the key thing that I learned is flexibility, being flexible, right? So architecture is more towards how to keep the things pretty much in the same path, in the same fixed narrow groove. But here it is more about being flexible, because people are having individual things, right? Individual traits and individual characters. We need to think about the strengths and weaknesses of people, how to groom them, how to develop them, and all of that. So my pivotal moment as such is this is a big learning curve for me, right? So you need to unlearn few things and learn few things. So both the things put together, it's a stuff that I struggled a while in between. But more or less what I understood all of this is in the entire process, be flexible and understand people, right? And moment we understand people and all the policies, whatever that we have, is meant to support people. It is not the other way around. So usually people have been driven to or forced to follow the policies. Rather, we should be thinking of the other way around. If it makes sensible decision to make sure that the policy need to be changed, let's change that one, right? So that's where we need to start. Think out of the box to support people. And moment we do that, we get big results which are far energetic and far enthusiastic things, right? So that's a big learning curve for me. Rather than sticking to the groove, stick to the policies, stick to the patterns, to being flexible, right? So that's a big thing. That's a key thing that I would say in my career.
Excellent. Yeah, it's so true. You have to unlearn a few things when you make that step up. I mean, speaking with individuals, the role changes so much when you get into that leadership position, right?
Exactly. So at times we might wonder why people stick to their stuff, right? So without thinking around the others, but all of these are the contributory factors, right? So we need to think about the wider angle and what's the wider benefit across. And I think most of our organizations, right, are dependent on the people. So people are the key things for the success. So without people, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to even work at all.
So true. I loved one of the things you said as well, is you have to almost flip it around the other way, because a lot of people think when you become a leader, people report into you. But actually, you serve the people underneath you, because that is your role. You're a facilitator now.
True. I never call myself as a manager, right? I always call myself as a leader and try to be a leader. The basic change is we don't control and then tell people what they need to do. It's more around a collaborative work that we are going to do along with them. So most of my time would be like supplementing and aiding my own people to achieve their targets, right? So that's the key thing. The outcome, what we want is the outcome as a team, not as an individual in here. So we need to be helping the engineers to achieve that outcome. So it's more around leading. Managing is pretty much a legacy thing. That's how I would look at it. So
Mm.
we need to get out of that mindset. That's a very, very traditional mindset. So yeah, there are quite a lot of new stuff that's been there. I wouldn't say new, it's been there for a while, like servant leadership. All of that propagates the same similar thought process that we
Mm.
supplementing and aiding the people to achieve it. So it's been there for a long time, put in different thought process, right? But I always feel a leader's height could be what the team could lift it to, right? So
Mm.
if team raises, then the leader naturally raises up. If the team falls down, then the leader naturally falls down. So it's all for us to help the team to perform well. Then we achieve our targets there.
As a
Yes,
leader, sorry, as a leader, what key attributes are you looking for when hiring for your roles?
Yep. So when hiring, the key things that I always ask is how people have the current thing that what they have worked upon. If they have been given a chance to build it newly from the scratch, what would they change? And what exactly was their regrets in the way they have designed it earlier, right? So any good engineer, if you go and ask him or her, right, about the current application, whatever that they worked on, they would always have a regrets that something that we made, a decision which we made in the past, which could have been different because we have been facing quite a lot of problems. Because it's not about they did it without lack of knowledge. It's all about as the time progresses, as the application evolves, they understand that it could have been different. So that thought process also tells us how much they have been involved in depth with the application as such, right? From the design to development and how it's been going through. It highlights that. And it also highlights how much vision that they do have with the technologies that's been there. So say for example, if a person calls out that I shouldn't have used a relational database, I should have used a NoSQL, then that's a good thought process that a person has about what the application should be do, what's the use case it's been there, right, to move it over to a NoSQL database. So those sort of things I would like to understand from the people. Also, the second thing is what did they learn newly out of the entire thing, where they have learned newly and where they have put that one in practice, right? So it could be a new technology that they have learned. It could be a new process that they have brought in forth. But what's the new thing that they have did? So this tells me how much they have thinking out of the box, right? So are they really thinking out of the box? Because mostly if we keep following what it is already there, we are going in a track, but we are not improving it to the level where we have to be. So people should be thinking out of the box. We should be thinking and challenging the status quo. Otherwise, we will never move out of it, right? So where is that thought process over there? So those are the things that I would look at it. That's a key thing that tells me that the person has the right attitude and the right stuff to get it forward. The reason I'm not talking much about the technical skills is most of the applications that we bring in, right, has a wide array of technologies. Now, if you look at it in the early days, we started with predominantly with Java. Now, later the Node.js picked up. Now, Golang picks up. Now, a lot of application gets developed with Rust. So, quite a lot of languages there. Python is by default sitting in a lot of areas in the scripts. I don't want the people to know all the array of technologies. Rather, I want them to be a master in one and have the right learning mindset to jump onto anything else that they could look into it and drill into it, right? So that's a mindset that people should have, the can-do attitude, right? And with right questioning being put in place.